A bunch of flowers. It was my mum's birthday and I decided to buy her a present like every year since last year. Before that I was too little. I took all the money out of my money box and luckily there was a lot because quite by chance Mum had given me some the day before. I knew what I was going to get her for a present. An enormous huge bunch of flowers to put in the big blue vase in the sitting room. I could hardly wait for school to be over so I could go and buy my present. I kept my hand in my pocket all the time at school so as not to lose my money, even when we were playing football at break, but since I wasn't in goal that didn't matter. Alec is our goalie. Why are you running about with one hand in your pocket? He asked me. I explained that I was going to buy my mum some flowers, and he said personally he'd rather have something to eat, like a cake or some sweets or sausage rolls. But since the present wasn't for him I took no notice, and I got a ball past him into the goal. We won 44-32. When we came out of school, Alec went along to the flower shop with me, eating half the chocolate roll he'd saved from the grammar lesson. We went into the shop and I put all my money on the counter and told the lady I wanted an enormous huge bunch of flowers for my mum, only no begonias because we had plenty of those in our garden so it wasn't worth buying anymore. We want something nice, said Alec, and he went and stuck his nose into the flowers in the window to see how they smelt. The lady counted my money, and she said she was afraid she couldn't give me a very enormous bunch of flowers. I was very sad, so the lady looked at me and thought for a moment, and then she told me I was a dear little boy, and she patted me on the head and said she'd fix it. She picked out all sorts of flowers, and she put in a lot of green leaves. Alec liked them, because he said they looked like nice fresh vegetables. It was a big bunch, really fantastic. The lady wrapped it up in crackly transparent paper, and told me to be careful how I carried it. So now I had my big bunch of flowers, and Alec had finished smelling the others in the window, and I said thank you to the lady and we went out. I was feeling very pleased with my flowers when we met Jeffrey, Matthew, and Rufus from school. Hey, look at Nicholas, said Jeffrey. He looks a right twit with that bunch of flowers. You're jolly lucky I'm carrying these flowers or I'd thump you, I said. Give them to me, said Alec. I don't mind holding them while you thump Jeffrey. So I gave Alec my bunch of flowers, and Jeffrey thumped me. We had our fight, and then I said time was getting on, so we stopped. However, I had to wait a bit longer, because Matthew said, just look at Alec. Now he looks a right twit holding a bunch of flowers. So Alec hit him over the head with the bunch of flowers. My flowers, I shouted. You'll hurt my flowers. I was right too. Alec went on hitting Matthew with the bunch and the flowers were flying all over the place because the paper was torn. And Matthew was shouting, doesn't hurt, Yabu, doesn't hurt. By the time Alec stopped, Matthew's head was covered with flowers and leaves. Alec was right. He did look like something you could cook for Sunday lunch. I started picking up my flowers and I told my friends they were beastly. That's right, said Rufus. You shouldn't have gone and done that to Nicholas's flowers. Nobody asked you, said Jeffrey, and they started thumping each other. Alec had gone home because the sight of Matthew's head made him feel hungry, and he didn't want to be late for dinner. I went off with my flowers. Some of them were missing, and there was no more greenery or paper left, but it was still a nice bunch. Then, a little further on, I met Eddie. Hi, said Eddie. Have a game of marbles? I can't, I said. I've got to get home and give my mum these flowers. But Eddie said it was still quite early, and I like playing marbles. I'm good at marbles. I just take aim and wham. I nearly always win. So I put my flowers down on the pavement, and I started playing with Eddie, and it's great playing marbles with Eddie because he often loses. The trouble is he doesn't like losing, and he said I was cheating, and I told him he was lying, so he shoved me, and I sat down on top of my bunch of flowers, and it didn't do them any good. I'm going to tell Mum what you did to her flowers, I said to Eddie, and Eddie was very upset. He helped me pick out the least squashed ones. I like Eddie. He's okay. I started off again. My bunch wasn't very big anymore, but the flowers I did have left were all right. One of them was just a bit squashed, but the other two were fine. Then, I saw Jeremy on his bike. I decided I wasn't going to fight him, because if I went on fighting all my friends I met in the street, I soon wouldn't have any flowers at all left to give Mum. Anyway, it's none of their business if I want to give my mum some flowers. I've got a perfect right to give her flowers, and personally I think they're just jealous, because Mum would be very pleased with me, and give me something nice for pudding, and tell me what a kind boy I am, so why do they all want to gang up on me anyway? Hi, Nicholas, said Jeremy. Right twit yourself, I shouted back. So what's the matter with my bunch of flowers then? Jeremy got off his bike and looked at me in surprise and said, What bunch of flowers? This bunch of flowers, I said, and I threw the flowers in his face. I don't think Jeremy was expecting to get a face full of flowers, and anyway, he didn't like it. He threw the flowers into the road and they landed on the roof of a passing car and drove off with the car. "My flowers!" I shouted. "My mum's flowers." "Don't worry," said Jeremy. "I'll follow the car on my bike." Jeremy's okay, but he doesn't pedal very fast, especially not uphill, even if he says he is in training to win the milk race when he's grown up. When he came back, he said he hadn't been able to catch up with the car. There was a lot of traffic and it had got away from him. But he did bring me back one flower which had fallen off its roof. Unfortunately, it was the squashed one. Jeremy rode off very fast. It's downhill all the way to his house, and I went home with my crumpled flower. I had a sort of a big lump in my throat. Like when I bring home my mark book with my monthly report and it's got all knots in it. I opened the door and I said, "Happy birthday, Mum," and then I burst into tears. Mum looked at the flower. She seemed a bit surprised. Then she put her arms around me and hugged me lots and lots of times, and she said it was the nicest bunch of flowers she'd ever had, and she put the flower in the big blue vase in the sitting room. I don't care what you say, my mum is okay.
René Goscinny.